As he opened up his laptop and he took a seat at his desk, he could feel his heart beating out of his chest. His palms were sweaty, his mind was racing, and he couldn't stop fidgeting around in his seat. It felt as if he was about to enter a boxing ring in front of 1 million people, or step out onto the pitch at the World Cup final. Nervously, he scrolled to the top of his laptop and checked the time. 3 minutes until the lights were on, and he was doing it for real. He closed his eyes, he took a deep breath, and tried to remember exactly what he'd been practicing the last 3 weeks. And it seemed as though the more he tried to focus, the less he could remember. And at this point, his mind was completely blank. 2 minutes left, he was really starting to freak out now. And the doubt was starting to creep in. Is this really for me? Can I really do this? Okay, I'm done, and I'll get to the point of the video. The scenario just explained there was me, before I took my first sales call for my agency. I was scared, I lacked the necessary skills, and I was completely uneducated of how to run a sales call properly, which is why I felt like I was going into cardiac arrest before the sales call even started. And although I didn't know it at the time, this is actually a pretty common feeling for most people that haven't sold before. And it makes sense. You don't know what to expect because you've never sold before. And if I've learned one thing in my life, it's that humans fear uncertainty more than anything, which is exactly why I decided to make this video, because although the first sales call is the most intimidating, it's also the most rewarding. And if you want to get that first close sooner rather than later, you better come into these calls prepared. So in this video, I'm going to break down a simple step-by-step framework you can use to close your first sales call and skip all the anxiety with not knowing how to run one properly. Trust me, if you implement what I'm about to share in this video, you'll enter your first sales conversation with that smooth, calm confidence that so many beginners lack. So if you're just getting started in sales or you're looking to close your first deal, keep watching, and I promise it's going to be one of the most valuable videos you ever watch. So first things first, we need to set the foundation, because without laying a solid foundation, it won't matter how well you execute the framework I'm about to share with you. And the foundation of any fruitful sales career lies in having 100% conviction in the product or service you are selling. You need to truly believe that the product or service you're offering can help your prospects achieve their desired outcome, whatever that may be. That be losing weight, increasing revenue, reducing costs, etc. And I mean, think about it. If you don't believe the product you're selling can actually help your prospects, how are you going to convince them to believe it's going to help them? I mean, think about it. If you don't fully believe the product or service you are selling is actually going to help your prospects, how are you going to convince them that it will? And the short answer is you won't. And the way to make sure you have conviction in what you're selling is just to make sure you have a good offer, or you're selling for someone that does. And I'll save the details of obviously how to build a good offer and how to find a good offer for another video, but it's a foundation that I didn't want to miss out because it is so important that you have conviction in what you're selling first. But the second part to this foundation is the overall mindset you come into these calls with. Because although the sales industry has this stigma that you need to be super alpha male and you need to be super pushy in your sales process, the truth is a lot of that is complete nonsense. Your entire job as a sales rep is to help people, not push some crappy product on people so you can make a quick buck. Which is why I believe your entire focus on a sales call should lead with value. Really try to understand your prospect and get to the root of their needs. You don't just want to jump on a call and immediately try and push your product, because you want to lead with value, not just to build trust and rapport with your prospects, but you'll start to uncover all the information you need in order to close a sale on the call. So now we've covered the foundation, which is selling a great offer or building a great offer if you're selling for your own business. So you actually have conviction in what you're selling, and then leading with value and genuinely trying to help your prospects. So now let's cover a simple 4-step framework any sales call can follow. So it's important to note that you can obviously go about building or finding particular sales scripts. Now they're going to vary, depending on what the offer you're selling, but it's infinitely more important that you learn the framework over any script. This way you won't sound like a robot, and you'll be able to have a genuine conversation with your prospect while still leading them down the sales process. So this is the 4-step process I use and I teach my students inside Club Closer. So it starts with the discovery phase, the desired situation, the gap, and obviously how to bridge it, and then of course objection handling. So let's start with the discovery phase, which I think is the most important. It comes obviously at the beginning of the sales call, and it's all about asking the right questions to learn as much as possible about your prospect, their current situation, their challenges, their goals, and the motivation behind them. The discovery phase is where you find out why that prospect is even on the call. So don't take it lightly. It is the most important part of any sales call, because it's where you gain an understanding of what that prospect is currently struggling with, and you'll start collecting all the information and all the ammunition you need in order to close that client later on in the call. And it's really critical that you're thorough here. You don't want to be asking surface level questions and move through this phase without truly understanding your prospect. So for example, if you're in the discovery phase of selling a fitness offer, here's some questions you can kind of ask. What made you jump on the call with me today? Do you like going to the gym? What's your current workout routine look like? Are you at your desired weight? Do you struggle with the gym? What does your current diet look like? The discovery phase's aim is to build rapport and trust with your prospects, whilst also arming yourself with the information you need to effectively pitch them and tailor that pitch to their desired situation. And don't be afraid to ask a lot of follow-up questions here. The more intel you're gonna get on your prospects, the better. And you need your prospects to open up to you in this phase, because if they don't open up to you in the discovery phase, you're gonna have a really hard time objection handling, which leads me to the next phase of the call, which is obviously discovering your prospects' desired situation. So now you have a baseline understanding of where your prospect's currently at. You now want to understand where they want to get to, what that desired situation for them actually looks like. In other words, what does success look like to them? And this is where you really start to paint that picture of the gap and kind of like where they're at right now and where they want to get to. So sticking with the fitness offer example, some other questions you can ask to figure out the desired situation. What would you want to be different about your current level of fitness? What do you want to look like? How do you want to feel about your physique? How would achieving those things impact your life? What are the main fitness goals you want to reach? And it's really important to uncover the underlying why they want these things. And don't be afraid to ask why. You really want to dig deep and learn about the problems they're having, the root cause of those problems, and the outcomes they want to achieve. And this is where you'll bring out the emotion, the motivation, and the values kind of driving their vision and their decision. And the more details you get, the better you can connect your offer to their desired situation and where they want to be. And this is key, because the desired state is quite literally what you're selling them on. You're not selling them the bells and the whistles of your product, the credibility of your company, or anything else for that matter. You're selling the person their desired situation that they just described to you, given the problem at hand, whatever that may be. Which obviously leads me to the next phase of the call, which is clearly bridging that gap between current state and desired state. So at this point, you obviously understand where your prospect's at and where they want to get to. It's now time to bridge that gap by showing how your product or service enables them to go from that current state to that desired state. And this is where you start positioning your offer as their ideal solution. And here you're going to bring up relevant case studies, testimonials, examples, or even if you don't have any of those, you're going to walk them through the roadmap step by step and back that up with data that will connect the dots for your prospect to see the value of the product and service you're going to provide them. And the key here is to really focus on that value and avoid pitching. You simply want to make your prospects get crystal clear on how you can get them from point A to point B, aka how your product is going to bridge that gap. Now, in a perfect world, once you've uncovered that gap between where the person is, where they want to get to, and why, and you've positioned your product as the bridge to that gap, you'd simply close and walk off into the sunset with your retainer or your commission. But sadly, that's typically not how sales calls go. You're gonna get objections, and you should expect them. Which leads me to the final point of this framework, which is obviously objection handling. And I really want you to consider objections as inevitable in any sales call, and how you go about handling objections really make or break your ability to close a deal. So it's safe to say you're gonna wanna get pretty good at this, and I'm gonna make a separate video on this, but in simple terms, handling objections comes down to isolating the objection, providing clarity or information that's needed to explain the real objection away. Humans have a tendency to throw out random objections that are simply smoke screens for uncertainty, rather than coming at you with the real objection right away. So it's your job again, as the sales rep, to get to the root of these objections. And you do this again by asking the right questions. A classic example of a smokescreen objection is that I need to think about it. I need to think about it is not the real objection. And it's on you to dig deeper to find out exactly what is holding them back from pulling the trigger right now. And you need to ask simple questions in order to continue to probe to get to the root of the objection. You know, what is it you need to think about specifically? So putting price aside, does everything else make sense to you? When asking questions like this, it forces the prospect to open up to you and tell you what the real objection actually is. They may tell you they need to talk to their wife or their business partner, tell you they're uncertain about a specific aspect of the product, or may straight up tell you that they don't see the value in what you're selling. Or they could just be fearful around making a decision, which leads you to part 2 of the process. Once you've isolated the real objection, now you need to provide clarity or information in order to explain or help the prospect overcome that objection. And here's where you come at them with proof, testimonials, facts, or even just explain the objection away or ask questions to help the prospect see it from your eyes and see it from your frame so that they can ultimately become a client of yours. And essentially what you're doing here is you're helping them break those limiting beliefs and explaining that the product can and will in fact and get them to the desired situation they just described. And this is where understanding their why and having conviction in what you sell really comes into play. Because when you know the product will generally help someone and you know this person's why, then you can effectively stack certainty that your product is the solution they've been searching for and show them why they need to act now. You can then refer to what they told you earlier on in the call and explain to them why they were on the call in the first place and why they wanted to achieve that desired result, and that if they don't take action, their situation will remain the same. So in summary, when an objection comes up, pause, listen closely, let them finish without interrupting, rephrase their objection to make sure you understand it correctly, and ask follow-up questions to get to the root of the objection and uncover the real concern. You're then going to respond with empathy and understanding. You don't want to get defensive here. Offer clarity, proof sources, facts, or reasoning that overcomes that objection. Loop back to their goals and their desired outcome and reinforce how you're going to help them achieve those. Then once you've properly handled all of their objections, you can circle back and then move forward with the close. I'll do a separate video on how exactly to objection handle, but that's a real bird's eye view of how to run and close your first sales call. And it's important to keep it simple, focus on the prospect instead of your product, and just try help the person as best as you can. Do this and you'll be well on your way to closing your first sale. And remember to stay persistent and stay consistent, because you might not close your first sales call, but if you stick at it, it's going to come sooner than you think. But if you're looking to sharpen your sales skills further, transition out of your corporate sales job or your 9-to-5, and you want to become a remote closer, or you just want to learn a bit more about the industry or how the sales process really works, make sure to subscribe to my channel and check out all my other content. I post weekly on here, so I'll see you in the next one.